So here we go. All right, man. So we're live. So this is the kickoff edition of the Pivot Playbook pop-up podcast. So I've had a podcast, a tribe called Yes, 137 episodes. This is a pop-up podcast in which we're going to just feature entrepreneurs who've made pivots during the chaos that is COVID-19. It's going to only last through this COVID-19 period, but I thought, in talking to business owners and people who are trying to figure out how to make the best of this situation, bringing on entrepreneurs who are finding ways to generate revenue when the markets have been upended. So today's guest, Matt Hammond, old-time friend from the old country, the University of Texas. Man, thank you so much for carving out some time to be on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Darren. It's an honor to be here on the first episode, no less, of the Pivot Playbook. This is the
first episode. And I got to be honest, man, like our conversation, you and I were talking and you were telling me about sort of what you were going through and how you were changing the business. And I thought, damn, man, like the way that you're pivoting and finding ways to kind of, get the business, not just up and going, but like generate revenue
right
in a time like this. That was the impetus for the podcast, man. So I want to start, most people kind of start at birth and work their way up.
Yep.
But I actually want to start like in the present tense. So Take me to the day that you realized that your in-person trivia games, that was no longer.
Yep. So we host in-person trivia games at bars, breweries, restaurants around Indiana. And we've got a few games outside of the state. This COVID-19 starts coming down more and more as a presence in our daily lives and the news and everything like that. And when bars and restaurants started texting me to confirm that we were good to go that night, like, we're good to go, we think we can still pull it off, we can do it. And then I was like, they're worried that their place is about to get shut down. And they're worried that I'm going to pull the plug on it before they have to pull the plug. Because you got to get to a bar an hour before we start trivia to get a table when we're hosting. And so it's a big revenue generator for these bars. And at a time when they needed the revenue, when people were scared to go out, I could sense it. And that's right when I knew, because we do a lot of big, huge private events for corporations, organizations, fundraisers for nonprofits. And I knew it was all about to disintegrate into thin air. And so that when I started getting the text, and then when the governor said we're closing down bars and restaurants, and it was a cascade. All the private events cancel, of course, because they should. All the bars and breweries and restaurants cancel because they had to and they should. And we get a lot of people together, and so it wasn't safe to begin with. And so I was relieved to not have to tell those bars, listen, we're not coming tonight. But that's the story of how it happened.
So let me ask you this. So this is the thing that's crazy to me. So what's the ballpark date that this is going on for you?
Great question. I am on my way back from a game in Muncie, Indiana. And we host a game at Ball State. And Trump had been on the air that night, and NBA had canceled the season. And so it was like March, I think 14th or something, right around there.
Wow, about March 14th.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know, we've got about 60 people, like folks are joining in on LinkedIn, and we're going to give them the opportunity to ask questions at the end. So,
great.
Okay, so pre sort of the restaurant bar shutdown, what would you say was your sort of average load in terms of trivia nights, events and venues prior to the shutdown?
Sure. So in an average week, we've got about 13, 14 weekly games at bars, restaurants, and breweries around the Midwest, right? And then we have, on an average week, 2.5, 3.5 big events. That's corporate team building, that's nonprofit fundraisers, that's private parties. So Hambone's Trivia as an entity probably was hosting about 16 trivia events a week, but almost all of that is repeated content because, we don't need to worry about someone who played in Muncie on Wednesday playing in Indianapolis on Thursday. So, the content was the same. It was not a lot of extra work having extra events.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me this. And the part I love about your story is like how quickly you adapted. So what was your thought process once you knew the restaurants, the bars were going to be shut down? Like, take us inside the head of Matt Hammond.
Sure.
What were kind of your options on the table?
So my option was, I don't think there's a good trivia podcast out there, right? And I've got this mic that's been sitting on my desk, and I've been talking about doing a podcast for so long. Is that something and I'm thinking, is that the right way to do it? And I'm just in my head thinking, if we're really, the fact that we would be in our house quarantined for this long wasn't really a thought at that time, right? But I tried to put myself, okay, what are people going to be doing? Let's just say this does last, at the time, crazy 30 days. Like, let's just say it lasts for 30 days, right? And I was thinking, how are people going to connect? And a podcast it's great, right? But it's not this, right? An audio podcast is not people interacting with each other, right?
Right.
And I was like, that's not the answer. And I'm sitting there talking to my wife, Rachel, and I'm like, this is going to be a huge hit to what I've built, because everybody's canceling. The emails were just cascading in. Matt, sure, this, we're canceling. And then I get a text from one of my friends that says, hey, have you ever thought of hosting a virtual trivia game? And I had thought of that literally about an hour before I got that text. And I said, thought deeply about it. What are your thoughts on it? And he replies back, I think it would be a hit, man. And I said, where do you think people would play? And he said, if you do lunchtime, I think it would break up the day for families, right? So let's call that the 0 hour of the idea, right? And I'm like, I'm going to host a lunchtime game. I call a very good friend of mine and a person that does a lot of work for Hambone's Trivia. I call Dan, and I say, Dan, we're going to run a virtual trivia. Dan hosts a lot of games for us. He's a great, incredible host. And he says, I'll come over to your house. I'll sit on your porch. You sit inside. We'll talk, and we'll plan this. So we planned it. We created Google Sheets, these Google Forms that people could answer on. In my head at the time, what we were going to do is I was just going to ask trivia questions, and then people could talk about it and chat about it. I was like, people don't need this competition. And Dan's like, Matt, I don't think you understand how many people want the competition that you can provide. And so we created an answer sheet. We decided to first stream on Facebook. That didn't work. 22 hours later, we were on YouTube with our first 12:30 game. And then the next night and every night since, we've done a 12:30 and 8:30 game. And we've continued to add to that portfolio every single week we add to it.
So tell us this. You're essentially launching something. Like, if you were to grade sort of your level of online expertise prior to creating this on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being an expert and 0 being, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Correct.
Like, where were you before launching this thing?
I would say I was a 2.8. I mean, basically, I know how to use Facebook. I know how to use LinkedIn. I know how to use Twitter and Instagram like any other normal human. There is no one listening right now that knows less about what I'm doing now than I did when we first started, right? I mean, I knew nothing. I didn't even know you could stream live on YouTube. I had no idea.
No idea.
Nope.
So you and Dan comes over, Dan's sitting outside, you're sitting in your house, you kind of raise the window, you guys are kind of
That's right.
hashing it out. It seems like to me you kind of get the ball rolling and get the movement going before you actually had the thing built. Like, you're kind of like, hey.
We absolutely did. We absolutely did. I knew it. And Darren, this is going to sound cheesy and contrived. It is due to a post that you made. And I don't even know if the post that you made, I think it was like COVID specific, but you were alluding to the fact that you don't really have time to try to make anything perfect right now. You got to go and then figure it out. Right. And so literally I have this epiphany where I'm going to run virtual games before I call Dan. And I tell my wife, I hand my wife my phone. I say, record me. I'm going to announce virtual games. Right. And so I sit in the chair I'm sitting in right now. I turn that way and I say, guys, listen, a lot's changing. We're proud to announce free virtual trivia. And we're going to have a game tomorrow at 12:30. Tune in and we'll figure it out together. Right. And I knew if I didn't make that announcement to the people that follow us on social media, that I was just going to pitter and patter and try to make it perfect. And we would have started this thing 3 days ago if I tried to make it perfect. So there's that's been my mantra is just go and then figure it out. It always comes together. Just figure it out. And no one expects perfection in this, right? No one expects perfection.
No.
And it's been incredible.
So that's the thing, right? I think, I've told people that, pre-COVID-19, we've always had some kind of, idea board of all these things we're going to do. And
that's right.
You get hesitant because will people like it? Will it work? This is like this period. It almost no one gives a damn if you screw it up because everyone's scrambling.
That's right. It's like the Renaissance, man. It's like the Renaissance. No one knows what they're doing, right? And if you can have some sort of schedule, if you can have some sort of normalcy with that, bringing families together, that's been the greatest part about this. Is people are saying I'm playing trivia every day with my cousins that I haven't talked to in 10 years. You're bringing our family together, and we're playing in St. Louis and San Francisco. And we don't even know you, but this is incredible, right? And at first we didn't know, we didn't know how to get the answer sheets to people. I was emailing the whole list 2 times a day, sending 4,000 emails out of my Gmail account every day. I'd never collected a single email address in my entire business history. And now we've got 6,000 in 15 days. And I'm emailing them all, and Google says, we're shutting down your account. We're shutting down your account.
I was waiting for that. I knew it was happening.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah. And I mean, you talk about just a cold sweat. And then I'm trying to log into YouTube, and they're like, no, your YouTube's connected to your account. Everything's shut down. Right. And so, I mean, I do CPR to the Google account. That would be a whole nother podcast. But no one expects perfection. We're just like, hey, listen, if you guys have ideas, we want them. If you guys want to volunteer on the back end, we always have the Hambone's team is always on a conference call, and we're scoring, we're firefighting, we're talking about the chat. We're talking in the chat to solve everybody's problems and everything like that. And it's a huge team effort. It's a huge undertaking because we've got 1,000 people playing this, right? And that is way more than I ever thought. I thought at the beginning of this, if at the peak of this thing, if I could have 100 people playing trivia, then I'm above water, right? That the brand will survive. And now we're fully sponsored with people coming in. And we never ask anyone to sponsor, and the sponsors have called us every day. They contact more sponsors. Contact people are paying to play. They're donating, and no one knows what they're doing. No one expects perfection. And we if somebody has a good idea, like last night, one of our volunteer scorers says, hey guys, I got an idea. What if we tweak the scoreboard where you can show everyone who's playing the percentage of people that got each question right? And we're put it in. He knew how to code it, put it in. And then we have it that night. And it was amazing. So we've just learned a lot.
So you talked about Dan, you talked about some other team members. Can you walk us through, in particular, what does your team look like and what are people's functions? But then kind of extrapolate out just for people in any industry, what do you think are the different types of skill sets, whether you're running, a trivia game or,
right,
or sort of selling products? What do you think are kind of the key competencies you need to have on a team?
Yeah, so sure. So I'll start with our team, and it's a small one. Today, as our team exists, we have myself, Lily Barker, who, and these are people that have serious full-time jobs and do this because they believe in it, and do this because of the opportunity, hopefully down the road, for being a part of this early on, right? So Lily, Dan, and then we have a Butler student named Marley. That's the team prior to this happening, right? And then we've got some other hosts that will host once a week, Joe McGowan, Ryan Carr. So that is the team as it exists. So whenever Hambones needed something, I would send the bat signal out to those people, and I'd say, we need a host for this event. Rolls-Royce wants to hire us to do 10. I can only do 4 of them, and then they would pick them up, and we would figure it out. Now we've got volunteer. We've got 2 brothers that are in high school, 17 and 15, and every day they are on our conference call at least twice a day, and they have coded this answer sheet to make it where our volunteer scores, and I'm trying to pay them, and their parents are like, you have no idea how incredible this has been. It's the one thing they look forward to.
Hold on. Pause.
Yeah.
I want to talk about these high school kids.
Yeah.
They found you found them. Like
their parents played. Yeah. And I got a text from their parents, and they said, hey, I got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old that want to be a part of it on your side, right? If you could use them. And I was like, if you're serious, I'll put them to work. And he's like, take them. And I get texts from their grandmothers, from their aunts and uncles, from their mom and dad, and just they're invaluable. If they were like, hey, I can't do this anymore, I would scramble, right? And then we hired a new person because the incoming communication was it was overwhelming, and I have to generate the content. My primary function has always been to create good trivia, fascinating trivia that's approachable by people that don't care about trivia, right? This is not a recall-based trivia game. I am very particular about the kind of trivia that we ask, right? And I have to write 2 games a day, all fresh content, because you've got hundreds of players that are playing both at the 12:30 game and at the 8:30 game, right? And so it's not like I can just turn around and use the same set of questions. And then we're trying to promote it, social media. We're trying to talk to our old customers. We're trying to talk to our people that want to hire us for virtual events for the corporation or organization. And it was just too much. We had to hire a new person. And so full circle, to get back to the second part of your question, for me, and I think it translates, the most important characteristics of our whole team, right, is reliability, right? Personal communication. When you write us a Facebook message and you live in Pittsburgh and you're 75 years old and you want to play trivia and you can't figure out how it works, and however silly that sounds to you and me, they don't understand how it works, and they want to play with their sons and daughters that are playing in Nashville, right? And so we say, let us call you. We'll walk it through, and it just touches people, right? And so we've got people that are kind, confident, patient, and above all, reliable. We start when we say we're going to start. We end when we say we're going to end, and we will treat you with the same with the professionalism and kindness that we all need right now. And people are really reacting to it.
And you know, one thing that I hear from you that I think is important for everyone is that you've identified like your unique value add. You know, you create the questions, and you've got a bank of, and I'm glad that you pointed this out for people. Hambone's trivia is not pulling from other sources. Like these are all Matt Hammond generated questions from scratch. So you've identified like that's your value add. And instead of trying to be the customer service rep and the coder, right, and the social media guru, you basically said, I need to create space and time for me to do this thing.
That's right.
So let me fill these positions.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because as you know, Darren, in my previous life, I was in politics. I would run campaigns, and it is, a very well-known fact in politics that if the candidate is trying to run their own campaign, that ship is sinking, right? That ship is sinking. And if I was trying to do the social media posts and not have Marley do the social media posts when we're trying to advertise, I mean, I'll touch it, but the real stuff she creates. If I'm trying to also handle the incoming requests I mean, there's been media interviews and there's been sponsorship stuff and there's been, we want you to do virtual events, and there's a condominium complex in Baltimore that says we want you to host a weekly game. Like, it was just overwhelming. It was too much, and the whole thing would sink if I said, "Let me do everything." Right? So, what am I good at? I'm really good at creating content that's fascinating trivia that people talk about the next day, right? And it requires, above all else, it requires reason, not recall. So I'm not asking you who wrote this book, right? I'm telling you something about it, and then you and your team together can discuss based on everything I've said, right? You know, if I ask you about a state, you know that it's not California, and you know it's not Texas, but it could be Arizona, right? And you talk it through. Everything requires reason, not recall, and that's the secret sauce.
So, you know, one of the taglines for this podcast is pivot or perish. Prior to COVID-19, your entire business model was you or someone else in a venue running a game.
That's right.
Had you not made this pivot, I mean, there were no other options for you, really, right?
That's correct. There was nothing. It would have. I mean, thankfully, I'm fortunate to be married to a woman that's got a great job, right? But Hambones would have perished, and there's no question about it, right? There's no question about it, because whatever happens when we get back up and running, we would not have been on the front of people's minds, right? Especially the bars that we partner with, because they're dying too. So instead, what we've done is we've really tried to lift those partners up, and we're playing for $100 gift cards every day for the partners that we had before this, right? And we're tagging them in our social media, and we're having the people that order and win those gift cards tag that location, tag the bar. So we're really trying to create this community. And so had we not pivoted, the thing would have died. And now I am confident that it's going to be, not only will it survive, it's changed forever. Because the whole problem with Hambone's trivia forever and ever was it was not scalable, because we've got our hosts and they can host only so many places. And then after that, we're competing against ourselves, right? And the market's saturated, and I can't be in Austin and Nashville and San Francisco and New York City at the same time. Well, guess what? Now I am, right? Yeah. Now I am. And we're not going to stop virtual trivia. When the quarantine ends, when we've got all our data, we know that people still want to play virtual trivia, and we're still going to offer it.
Yeah. So fast forward, just kind of putting on your guessing cap, and God knows how long this quarantine is going to last, right? How long is this going to last? Who knows? What do you guess, if you were looking at a pie chart of in-person and virtual post-COVID-19?
Yep.
Do you have sort of a shot in the dark guess at what you think that percentage split's going to look like? Yeah,
so that's a great question. I think our data, because we've asked, right? We've asked people, how long have you been playing Hambones, right? In person, right? And everything from 5 years to 5 days. One time I went and played. And then also the, big majority of our players never played Hambones, right? At all before this. And then we've asked, so we have that data, and then we compare the same respondents to, when this is over, are you going to play in person? Are you going to play virtual? Are you going to play a mix of both? Or are you done with trivia? So our best guess, which is more than a shot in the dark, is that I would say that more than half of our business, I would say 60% of our business will be virtual after this normalizes.
Wow. I just remember having conversations with you. So, Matt's in Indianapolis. I get back to Indy every year to go back to the combine. We always do either lunch, breakfast, and we, this whole scaling question, right? It's like you were bursting at the seams with business, in-person business.
Right. And Darren, this conversation is literally a week and a half before this all hit. This is the combine.
That's right. So that was the last week of Feb.
Yeah.
And things were kind of murky. Some things were going on, but we're like, we're not quite sure. And that was the last time that I stepped on an airplane.
Yep.
When I went back to Austin, it was like February 29th.
Right.
And I remember getting back, and then within that week, it was just chaos.
Correct.
And I think it would just been so easy for you again, because we know that there are other trivia games in the world who were like you in terms of in person prior to COVID-19.
That's right.
And they've just decided, well, that's it. I've got to find something else to do, or
that's right.
Maybe this isn't for me.
That's right.
And so it's always like just that kind of mindset of pushing through it when you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yep.
How do you forgive yourself? So I think a lot of people, they're like, well, I can't start this thing that I don't know really how to run because, Susie in Savannah is going to get pissed off if, her YouTube connection doesn't work or whatever it may be. Like, how do you forgive yourself with some of the kinks that come along with pivoting?
Man, that's a great question. And it's not easy, man, because the more virtual you become, the easier it is for a stranger in Tampa to say, hey, your trivia sucks, right? Or YouTube was glitching, or my power went out and we lost all the questions, right? And it's easy to take that all personally, right? Yeah. Especially when you're not accustomed to it, right? Now, I would imagine someone like you or someone that's has a very public face on the internet, they're used to being criticized and being criticized for something that's out of their control, or just a random angry person with some sort of agenda, right? Mm-hmm. For us, everything has always been very personal. Like, we offer incredible customer service and we offer a great experience, but it's at a bar with people we know who know us. They come every single week, right? And so now we have people that don't know us and who we don't know, right? And we've got to, it's been our community, the people that always play Hambones, that welcomes those new people into the chat. It's amazing to see the interaction of families that know what they're doing and have been here before, and people who say, hey, I'm from Pittsburgh and it's my first time. And it's like, it's overwhelming, the help that these people give. And so for me, I can't do everything. I cannot possibly do everything. We're going to continue to have the personal touch and the customer service, but I know that I'm going to make 100 mistakes a day, right? And as long as my people, being my customers, right? As long as my customers see that I'm not making the same mistake every day, and that I'm listening to their feedback, and that I'm trying my hardest to provide for them what they have become accustomed to, they are very forgiving and they're very kind and they want to help. They're sending in artwork and they're sending in, right? Oh man, we've got an architect who sends us art, and he says, Matt, what logo would you like me to incorporate into the art today? And so the other day I said, hey, take the Goodyear blimp and see if you can change it to bad year, and then underneath it put great trivia. And he sent that blimp flying over Indianapolis with the Hambones logo on the tail of the blimp and a huge, it looks like a full moon Hambones logo. And he sends us these every day. He's turned us into the NASA logo. We have sweatshirts and t-shirts now for sale, and we didn't have a good picture of them for sale. The company that we're working with, they're trying their hardest. They're a little Indianapolis-based company. They make a great product, but it's just a blue t-shirt, a solid blue t-shirt on their site. It doesn't have our logo on it, and it's basically saying, trust us, it'll have it, right? And so this guy makes Teddy Roosevelt wearing our hoodie and Muhammad Ali wearing our t-shirt and sends it to the trivia company. And we have people like that from all over sending us their pictures. The other day, a tornado came through central Indiana. Yeah. I must have gotten 25 pictures of teams from around the state playing Hambones in their basement under shelter. I mean, it's been wild. It's been wild, man. And so
this brings up a point. Big fan of Paulo Coelho and The Alchemist, and he talks about the universe conspiring. Like, once you start making forward progress, like it's tough to get lift, right? Because there may be people in your home or friends who are saying this is stupid, dumb, it won't work. But then once you get lift off, you get these strangers out of nowhere. Like this architect who's just generating, art for you. Like you can't buy that. Like you can't buy that kind of fidelity to the brand.
I promise it's amazing. And I've said, hey, can I pay you? And so I feel better about just saying, hey, can you make this? Can you make this? And he's like, Matt, this is the bright spot of my day making this art. Like when I see you post it, my whole family is so proud. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's been amazing, man.
I love it.
And we've got like volunteer students at Franklin College and Butler University just saying, hey, can we volunteer to score? And so we have them on our conference call, right? And there's such camaraderie. Like they see the backside of this, right? They see the underbelly and they're like, holy, I mean, you would never imagine when there's that many trivia teams, what it looks like on our side of it, trying to score that many questions from that many teams all at once so that we can get real-time scoreboard update. It's been wild.
Man. All right, I'm going to take a couple of questions, man. I want to be respectful of your time. Okay, one question is, so Matt, you said that you have a family. How are you juggling family and business right now?
Oh, man, it's not like it is delegation to the highest. So my wife works for Salesforce. That's a serious job. They have serious responsibilities. We've got a 1.5-year-old girl. We have a new puppy. And we've got 3 other kids. We're almost like the Roberts, right? and it is, like, listen, Dad's going in to talk to Darren, right? And don't let Georgia come running in or the puppy come running in. And everybody's just been great. And it's when we turn it off, right? And so it's like now I can, the LinkedIn interview is over with Darren. The pivot playbook's over. So we're going to take a walk with the puppy. We're going to get some sunshine, right? And then eat lunch. And then for 3 hours, I've got to write questions for our 90s pop culture event tonight, right? And then I've got to carve out this time to talk to people that want to sponsor this. And so it is really structuring the time and giving family members empowering them to say, you're in charge of the puppy. You're in charge of this puppy for an hour. Don't let it go inside.
Man, I know the struggle. So obviously, and everyone else knows on LinkedIn, I've got 5 kids, wonderful wife. I am sitting in her closet. She's basically charging me rent. I've created a makeshift studio in her office. Yeah. Her closet. I can hear my kids downstairs. Yep. Just, they're staging a coup in the kitchen. And I think that a lot of people sometimes like they'll see videos and pictures of people and the facade looks great. Like, oh man, the pictures in the background. But I'm glad you gave us an inside glimpse of someone who's like operating literally a 24/7 business.
Yep.
Right. During a quarantine period, that the presentation's very different from like the real life. Like you and I both know if we walked into our kitchen right now, there's no telling what in the hell we would see.
Disaster zone. Disaster zone, man. And you know what? Like, I also think, and I've noticed this a lot through my wife's, video conferences constantly every day. Like, people are forgiving of this stuff. No, everyone's going through it. No one has this perfect silent office at home, right? Especially when kids aren't in school, right? And especially when kids haven't been in school for a month and haven't really done anything. Everyone is losing their mind. And so people understand when when I'm doing live trivia, it's different. But if you and I are talking, or if I'm talking to a sponsor and I say, hey, my baby's losing her mind right now, I got to go, whatever. They're like, oh my gosh, mine is too. Let's, this is fine. So no one's expecting the perfection. And you just got it. You're in it together, man.
I love it. Last question for you. Okay. This is the Pivot Playbook. You're the coach in your game plan. Like, what are your 3 go-to plays? So in the Pivot Playbook for Matt Hammond, what would you say would be your 3 go-to plays to be able to pivot successfully?
So the first would be, and we've talked about it throughout this, but nothing is more important. If I were in a huddle and we're pivoting, the first thing I'm saying is I'm looking everybody at the eye, and I'm in the eye, and I'm just saying, get open, go, go, right? And I'll find you, right? So the first thing is, do not trust your instinct. Especially if it's your own enterprise, right? Just trust your instinct. Don't run it by 500 people because you're going to get 500 answers. Then you're going to say, you're right. They're right. This isn't going to work. Or it's not supposed to be like this. I'm just saying, and just go, right? That's the number one thing. Then be empathetic with your team, but know that a lot of people want to be part of something right now, and they want to be part of it in a way that they couldn't have been before this started, right? And so these conference calls that we have with our team, I'm like, hey guys, if I'm asking too much of you, and it's not like if I'm asking too much, just let me know and I'll find the help somewhere else. It's like, I know that you've got life stuff and you stuff and family stuff. And if you can't do it every day, just tell me I can't do it every day. And I'll love it when you can. And I'll understand when you can't. And they're like, people want it. People need. And so when you learn to trust the people that are on your team and you tell them to get open, they're going to find a way to get open because they trust you and you trust them.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Any last wrap up points, man? Like what is the, what's the, if this COVID-19 scare is a game, you're the head coach in the post game. Last thing for you is like, what's the locker room talk that you want to be able to give to the team after coming out of this period? Yeah.
So this is going to sound, I don't know how this is going to come off, but this is what I believe is that this, for some people, maybe not for everyone, but certainly for me and a lot of us, this COVID thing, this quarantine, this time in our lives, this time in the world is an opportunity, right? Above all else. And it's a gold rush. And every day when you think about, all right, we've got at least a month of it left, right? To me, it's if I don't push every day to get to widen my footprint, to get more people involved in this thing, in that month, I'll never, ever have the same opportunity again. It's never, ever going to happen again. So and what you grab, it's a gold rush. What you grab, you will be able to use when it's over. But what you don't grab is gone forever. Someone else is going to grab it.
I love that. The clock is ticking.
Yep.
There will never be another moment, like a period in time where you have the attention, like people are searching. This is not I'm going to just scroll through on my way home or on the way to the grocery store. Like that's all you have to do. It's like,
you're not competing with anything. Nothing, right? Nothing, right? No one's going to concerts. No one's going out to eat. No one's going on a trip to Florida. You're competing with nothing, and people are dying for things to do. And they want the connectivity. And if you can offer it to them in a way that is beneficial to their family, where they can connect and they can have some sort of, this was really fun, right? That's for us, but everyone can look at it their own way, but it's never happened to our parents, right? It's not like it happens once in a lifetime. It happens less than once in a lifetime. It's never coming back.
I love it, man. Hey, listen, I'm excited because we're going to be co-hosting. So Hambone's Trivia has agreed to host a game for the This Is Not About Sports, the LinkedIn family. We'll have information coming out on that today. It's going to be next week. But I'm excited, man, because you've got thousands of people. And you talked about the U.S., but it's global. I mean,
we've got Australia, Poland, Russian, Ireland. What do we have? Colombia. Yeah, it's been awesome.
It's going to be awesome. So it's going to be about sports and business, but not about either one. And here's the thing, right? Like, I think a lot of people sometimes are like, oh, I don't know that much about this. Like you said, the way you built the questions, like you can reason your way to the answer. And at the end of the day, man, this is a nice deviation away from homeschooling and trying to figure out what the takeout is for the night. That's right. So looking forward to it, brother. Thanks again, man. I know we went overtime. I know you've got tons going on, but
that's all right, man. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Darren. Good luck with everything. We'll talk soon. I can't wait for trivia next week, man.
Sounds great, brother.
All right. Thanks, Darren.
Take care.
Yep.